Hello, I'm John Roper. I'm the leader of the volunteer group here. We call ourselves Friends of Danesbury. And I've been running it for about 20 years now. In the main, we look after the whole of the local nature reserve. We finished our last big project, clearing scrub and stuff off a lower slope, in the middle of 2015. Then we had to decide what is our next project. Well, this here, the Fernery, is an old chalk pit. When we came here in September 2015, it was completely smothered in nettles and scrub and rubbish, but it was decided, well, let's have a go at clearing it once and for all. It had been cleared in a sense once or twice over the years because people have had visits, but what we soon discovered, and no one realised before, is that the whole of the site had been covered by something like 24 inches of soil and spoil. So with our spades and things, we were really up against trying to uncover stuff. But we did, and we started working sort of very hard at it, gradually clearing the site, finding the grotto. But we had no plans. There aren't any plans in existence about how they built this. And so we were working blind. What we did have is papers from Pullams. Now Pullams from Broxbourne are the famous people who were building artificial stonework. And the records showed that in 1859, it took 1 year, 1859, they supplied, in a sense, a grotto, a pass, a dropping well, a gorge with a rustic bridge over it. So those are the only papers that we had. Now, the grotto we found fairly quickly, even though we had to sort of dig down, but we didn't otherwise know really what we were looking for. But it was built basically in 1859. William John Blake owned Danesbury House at that time. He had a gardener, Anthony Parsons, who we mustn't forget. He was a very accomplished gardener. He was a developer, cultivator of ferns and many other plants. And of course in those days the Victorians were going on their grand tours of Europe, and they were coming back here typically saying we must have a rockery. Well, there is no natural stone or rock in Hertfordshire. And the Pullams were well placed because they'd built themselves up building terracotta decorations for churches and things, and they developed their own proprietary cement. It was a secret mix. And I think they jumped on the bandwagon and they suddenly realised we can build what looks like natural stonework, and did they just. So we've got this sort of stonework, Pullamite as it's called. There's a bridge at Buckingham Palace, Sandringham. Not far up the road we've got Swiss Gardens has got a lot of stonework there, and all the way the big houses round about, not just in Hertfordshire, a lot of them have got Pullamite stuff, and it's well regarded. The key thing about it is that most of these structures were in private land, so they weren't really accessible to members of the public. This is exceptional in the sense that now it's sort of owned by the Borough Council. It's part of a local nature reserve, so it's open all the time. So it's rare to find a sizable Pullamite construction that's available to the public. And of course how we've opened it up, I mean the Heritage England looked at it just recently. They regard this, I think, as about the biggest and the best Pullamite site they've seen in many years, and we're getting a lot of support from the Hertfordshire Gardens Trust and others now to keep working to develop this. And it's very exciting. It's exciting in the sense that we're learning all the time. I mean, only maybe 3-4 weeks ago, you would have heard us preaching about the fact that the papers from RHS, the Horticultural Society, some of their journals say that in 1881, for instance, it was described as the best fernery you'll find here in the home counties. There's an abundance of water and so on, and we think, well, where the hell is the water? There's no water here. And it's only the last few weeks we've discovered how they got water to the site. That's a revelation. And then we go on. We were cleaning one of those paths down there, ready for today's show, polishing up, and we found bricks that lead to another path. So we've got yet more excavation to do. The key thing here, we are in 2018, is that we've moved from the phase of excavating, finding rockwork, to developing and building a garden. And this is what's catching everybody's eyes now because it's looking really beautiful. We've got a garden designer, Sarah Marsh, who has volunteered to do the design work for us, and it's really quite spectacular. We had to make a decision in January 2017 what sort of garden we're going to have. we couldn't have a Victorian garden because we've got no plans that said this is where things got to go. So we decided we'd have a modern garden that is sympathetic to Victorian planting, while we've got these wonderful sort of ferns planted in the middle. It is a fernery after all. And it's sympathetic to the rock work, so that we're not taking anything away from the uniqueness of this particular site. So we've only this year planted up that central bed there, and we got loads of rabbits that are causing trouble, so we're going to have to get rid of them next year, but it's all wired up at the moment so that they don't have too much of a feast. And then we've got another big bed down here that's covered in a matting at the moment. This is one example of the excavation I was talking about. It's the water feature. Of great significance is that most of this was under about 2 feet of spoil, and the rock work, you can see some of the rock work here is much whiter. It's sort of evidence of where it's covered by maybe 60, 100 years, we don't know how long, covered in soil, and it's preserved it. The crack down there is where they would have had probably a concrete seat originally. But here we are anyway. This is an interesting challenge because only until recently we got no idea how they would have operated this dropping well. And today we sort of rigged it so that we got this nice sort of trickle of water running down. But hitherto we've all been arguing about would they have had a cascade, and if they had a cascade, where was the water coming from? Because there's no water near here. And what I think we've reached is this sort of conclusion, at least for today, that above the rock work here is a cistern. It's blocked off for safety reasons at the moment, but in there is a wonderful, the Victorians have built a wonderful, something like a 2 feet diameter concrete cistern in there that would have had hundreds and hundreds of gallons. And we believe that they probably would have only had this water running when they had visitors here. And we found a tap down here that is linked with pipe work, where it's quite possible that that would have turned the water on, the water off, in the sense of allowing it to gravity feed and trickle down here. That's what we think is happening in the present time. All of this rock work, we're told by experts, is in fabulous condition. It gets spoiled by graffiti every now and again, but we're an open site and we can't stop kids coming in here, and our big hope of course is that we don't do irreparable damage, because this would cost a lot of money to repair. We have to be careful when we scrub fortunately most of the marks are made with chalk, because there's plenty of chalk around. It was after all an old chalk pit. But we have to be careful when we scrub the chalk off, because you begin to see that you're beginning to take cement off, and we can't afford to take too much cement off because Pullen spent a lot of time putting it on there in the first place. So this is one sort of bit of evidence of the excavation we are having to do still. Along the path behind you, when we were getting ready for this open day, here we are on a Sunday, just last Thursday, we had the Borough Council digger with us, helping us sort of clear some of this path of the spoil that it takes us too much time to move, and we found the traces and brickwork of another path that's leading up into this hillside here. So we're excited about that, and although we might not tackle it for quite a few months, there's just one more area waiting to be excavated. Where does the path lead to? It's going up a slope, and some of the original papers we got from the Royal Horticultural Society journals describe the site, and they say when you come in there's steps going down, and then they describe this grotto and everything that you can see. Well, we've no idea where those steps are. It's just possible that that path there might lead to the steps. So this is one more sort of area of excitement in terms of excavation. And the big challenge, if you want to move around, we'll just have a look at the grotto. Not the grotto, the gorge, sorry. Just behind me now, you can see that there are the edges or the ends of 2 runs of Pullamite stone, and it's quite clear to us now that this is the so-called gorge. There aren't any other areas here where we've got sheer drops, and on the top of the stonework on the left there are marks where the beams originally would have gone that would have supported a bridge, and the marks over on the right hand side as well. So another thing that we have to consider in the future not sure where the priorities lie, and in costs of course, is that this is absolutely certainly where the rustic bridge would have crossed. So the path that we've excavated at the top, people would have been allowed to sort of walk across the top and across the rustic bridge, and only in the last month we found where the path went to, which we didn't know before. So it's all exciting in the sense that because we've got no plans, we don't really know where we're going. We're following the paths. We're doing it responsibly in the sense that what we're standing on is original 19th century gravel, and we follow the gravel. If you follow the gravel, you find the path. You can't just willy-nilly go digging up paths and say, hurrah, we've got a new path. This is the fun of it, and this is what is really creative. So we reached the point now where we've done massive amount of excavation, but we've still got exciting new bits of excavation to do that will take us probably another couple of years. But then on top of that, we have this garden, this beautiful garden that's being built. So I was saying a little earlier, we now have this sort of two-pronged attack, excavation and developing the garden. And it's being developed for everybody to enjoy, as we've got so many people here today. And it's fundamentally now belongs to the community. Fundamentally, more and more people in the community know that the fernery exists, whereas 2.5 years ago, you probably wouldn't find anyone in Welwyn who knew of the fernery or where it was or what it was. Now suddenly people are realising that we've got a community asset here that's to be enjoyed, certainly to be developed, and absolutely certainly to be looked after. To look after it means that we have to continually build up and encourage new volunteers to work with us and get reward out of looking around and seeing what we've done, what we've achieved. The whole thing about volunteering is when you can turn around, look and see, I've made a difference, and that's the whole thing.